My name is Laurel, and birthdays were always a mixed bag in my house. Not because I expected anything grand, but because there was always this twisted expectation that my pain was somehow the family's entertainment. This year I turned 25. It was supposed to be different. I was back home for the first time in 2 years after getting my own place and building a small freelance business. I'd grown stronger, more independent. But deep down, I still held this foolish hope that maybe, just maybe, my family would treat me with even a sliver of kindness this year. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. A week before my birthday, my mom started acting unusually sweet. She called me every morning, asked what cake I liked, even asked for my shirt size for something cute. My sister, Melanie, the golden child, texted me, "Get ready. This year it's going to be unforgettable." Even my dad, who normally couldn't care less about anyone but himself and his lawn, told me, "Be ready by 2 p.m. on Saturday. Dress up. We've got a surprise." And like an idiot, I believed them. On the day of my birthday, they picked me up from my apartment. I was wearing the new blue dress I had bought with my own savings, a tiny gift to myself. I even put on makeup, something I rarely did. I wanted to believe this time they were actually planning something thoughtful. Melanie was in the front seat when they pulled up. My mom patted the back seat and smiled, holding a silky red blindfold in her hand. "It's a surprise," she grinned. "Just trust us this once, sweetie." For the first few miles, I laughed along with them. They joked and teased, saying things like, "You've never had a birthday like this before?" and "You'll never forget this day." And they were right. Just not in the way I expected. After what felt like an hour of driving, the car finally stopped. I was still blindfolded when my dad said, "Okay, get out." I stepped out, heels sinking slightly into what felt like dirt. I reached for someone's hand, but no one grabbed mine. Then I heard the car doors shut and the engine start. I yanked the blindfold off and found myself standing in front of a dilapidated old barn. No balloons, no lights, no people. Just rot, rust, and overgrown weeds. I ran after the car, but it had already made a U-turn on the gravel road. The windows were down. I could hear them laughing. Not just giggling, but full-blown, gut-busting laughter. Through the breeze, my mother yelled, "Surprise!" My sister shouted, "Happy barn day, loser!" And my dad? He just honked twice like some cruel punctuation to their joke. Then they drove off. I stood there stunned. The barn looked like it hadn't been used in decades. The roof sagged in the middle and the door creaked open just enough to show dust and cobwebs. My phone was in my purse, which they had offered to hold in the car. The wind picked up. Cold. Sharp. I was alone, dressed for a party that never existed, left in what might as well have been a horror movie set. I wandered inside the barn, hoping to find something, anything, just to sit on or break the silence. But the second I stepped inside, I heard a sharp crack from the rotting floorboards and froze. One more step and I might have gone through. So I backed out, heels clicking awkwardly, heart pounding. My birthday had officially become a survival exercise. I walked nearly 3 miles in those shoes down the rural road before a passing farmer in a pickup finally stopped to help me. He offered me water and his phone. His name was Jim. I still remember that because he was the first person that day who looked at me like I was a human being. I called a cab. It took over an hour to arrive. By the time I got home, the sun had set, and there was a photo already uploaded to my sister's Instagram. Her, my parents, and a cake that said Happy Freedom Day. The caption? Finally gave Laurel the party she deserved. Such an family fun, suck barn life. I stared at that post for so long my screen dimmed. I didn't cry. I didn't call them. But something inside me changed that night. Something snapped. And that's when I started planning something they'd never forget. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the cracked ceiling of my apartment, fists clenched, replaying their laughter over and over again in my mind. Their cruelty wasn't just a one-time thing. It had always been there. The backhanded comments, the exclusion, the subtle digs about my appearance, my work, my sensitivity. But this time it was public, online, deliberate. The next morning I opened my laptop. No more tears. No more hoping they'd change. I dug through my files and opened a folder I'd long ignored. A scanned copy of the deed to the lake house. A house that had belonged to my late grandmother, my mom's mother, until she left it to me in her will. It was the one thing I had that they wanted. My mom had begged me for it after the funeral, saying, "We're family, Laurel. What would your sister do without a summer place?" I said no then. But I hadn't done anything else about it. I'd never even visited the place. Until now. Within a day, I drove up to the house with a locksmith and a contractor. It was dusty, but solid. And it had potential. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I spent the next 2 months renovating it, polishing every wood panel, updating the kitchen, planting flowers my grandmother once loved. I worked tirelessly, pouring my energy into something they didn't even know I still owned. At the same time, I unfollowed every single family member on social media, blocked their numbers. Not a word. They called. Oh, they called. Not to apologize, though. Of course not. It was Melanie who left the voicemail first. "Hey, are you still being dramatic? Mom said you're ghosting everyone over a joke. We have family dinner this Sunday. Grow up." I didn't respond. Then came Mom. "Laurel, we saw your name pop up in some legal documents. Are you doing something with the lake house? We agreed it would stay in the family. Don't be selfish." I still said nothing. It wasn't until my dad sent me a text, "Don't make me get legal," that I smiled. Because that's when I knew they had no idea what was coming. A week later, the invitations were sent. Formal cream-colored envelopes, elegant calligraphy. "Cordially invited to the grand opening of the Barnlight Retreat, an exclusive women's wellness weekend founded by Laurel Jameson." The barn reference? Very intentional. The location? Grandma's old lake house, now transformed into a serene, modern escape with spa treatments, therapy groups, meditation rooms, and a community kitchen designed specifically for women who had endured emotional abuse and family cruelty. I hired a photographer, a brand strategist. I made sure the event was covered by a few niche local magazines. But the cherry on top? Every woman who attended got a tote bag that read, "Your pain is not a punchline." Opening weekend was beautiful. Dozens of women came from nearby cities, women with tears in their eyes, clutching journals, sharing stories of being the scapegoat, the invisible daughter, the joke in someone else's twisted family game. On the second day of the retreat, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my cousin Ava. "Your mom is freaking out. She saw the feature in Northern Living. She said, and I quote, 'She named it after the barn prank? She's mocking us.'" I laughed. Finally. I didn't reply to Ava either. I let them sit in their panic, their disbelief. But I did get one last message from my sister. No greeting, no apology. Just one line. "Do you think you're better than us now?" And finally, I answered, "Not better, just free." The morning of the second retreat weekend, the one already fully booked with wait lists, I stood barefoot on the porch of the lake house, the Barnlight Retreat, with a mug of tea in hand, watching the sun rise over the misty lake. It was quiet, peaceful, healing, until I heard tires on gravel. I looked up, and there they were, my parents, my sister, all three of them standing by the car in their overpriced clothes, wearing nervous half-smiles like they thought this could be salvaged. I didn't flinch. I didn't even move. I simply leaned against the porch post and sipped my tea. Mom was the first to speak. "Laurel, sweetheart, can we talk?" I raised an eyebrow. Dad stepped forward like he owned the place. "You've made your point. You're upset, but dragging the family through the mud publicly? That's too far." Melanie crossed her arms and added, "Naming it after the barn prank? You're literally trying to humiliate us." "Humiliate you?" I said calmly. "I simply told the truth. That must be embarrassing, huh?" Mom sighed dramatically. "Look, we just want things to go back to normal. We're still family." "No," I replied. "We're blood. That's not the same." Dad scoffed. "So what? You think you're some martyr now, running a pity camp for broken women?" I took a slow step forward, holding his eyes. "No, I run a space where women heal from being treated like this," I said, gesturing at them. "From being blindfolded and dumped in barns, from being mocked, ignored, dismissed, from being told their pain is a joke." "You think you're special?" Melanie snapped. "No," I said, "but I finally realize I'm not disposable." I turned toward the retreat entrance, and that's when the door opened behind me. Out walked Dr. Raina Morgan, the therapist and trauma recovery specialist who now worked at my retreat. She'd been a keynote speaker, someone the media adored, someone my mother had once idolized on social media. Raina walked up beside me and whispered, "They're the ones?" I nodded once. Raina faced them. "This is a protected space. No guests allowed who bring psychological distress to our residents." "Are you serious?" my dad barked. "You think we're some kind of threat?" "You are," Raina said, her voice calm but firm. "You're exactly the kind of people this retreat helps women survive." Security appeared at the gate, hired, trained, and discreet, but strong. My mom's face went pale. Melanie hissed, "You're insane!" But I didn't flinch. I handed my tea mug to one of the volunteers, stepped off the porch, and walked straight to my father. "You left me in a barn," I said, "and you thought it was funny." I turned to my mom. "You filmed it." Then to Melanie. "You posted it." They didn't deny it. "Now," I said, stepping back, "you're on the outside of my life. Permanently." Security motioned toward their car. They stood still for a moment, shocked, frozen in place. Then Melanie broke first, stomping back toward the vehicle. My dad cursed under his breath and followed. My mom hesitated, like maybe she'd say something. She didn't. She got in the car. As they drove away, I finally exhaled. Later that day, I stood before the women at the retreat, many now friends, telling them what happened. Not to gloat, but to show what reclaiming power looked like. I closed my speech with what would become the retreat's motto. "We don't go back to the people who buried us alive. We plant gardens over the place they left us for dead." And every woman in that room stood and clapped, because they knew exactly what that meant. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you